Hello, my name is Dr. Gretchen Vartels, and welcome to English 360 Detective Fiction. In this video, I'm going to give you a brief overview of Week 1, what to expect, and also what we're going to be doing in our learning activities. So to get started, click on the learning activities, click on Week 1, and then what you're going to see is just exactly what you're seeing on this screen. So you're going to see this table of contents, and this is how you go through. You see the syllabus, you can see our readings, you can see the Week 1 lectures, all of that. I'm actually in my instructor edit mode, so we're not going to have to click in between each of those, but that's the easy way that you'll get to each of those. You'll also see our Week 1 overview. Each week, we're going to have an overview that lets you know what we're doing for that week and when it's due. So you can see we have to read and review the syllabus as the first item of business, and that's going to be this week, Week 1, by day 4, which is Thursday. Day 1 is always going to be Monday. Day 7 is always going to be Sunday. Typically, things are due on Sunday, but not always, so do make sure to pay attention to those. We also are going to be participating in the introduction blog. We have reading, we have viewing, and we're going to be reflecting. So that gets us starting in on the writing. There's also a quiz that's going to show that you've been keeping up with everything and gives you points for that. So let's get started. First of all, make sure that you go over the syllabus. This is so key and so important. You want to make sure that you have a good sense of where we're going in the class and what you can expect. This is a class that moves quickly, and that's because it's an 8-week class, and this 8-week class is actually taking 15 weeks of material, and we are synthesizing it down into 8 weeks and really running along at a fast pace. And that's something that likely you are familiar with if this is not your first ops class. If it is your first ops class, it's a fast pace, but it's also a good pace because it means that we're going to be able to focus in depth each week on whatever we're reading, whatever we're writing about, whatever we're looking at. So instead of stretching that out, we really condense it. One of the ways that you can make sure to stay on top of things is budgeting time, and this can be difficult. Each ops class is built with 1,000 minutes of student engagement per week, and that's an average. So if you find that you read things very slowly, for instance, this is a reading-heavy class, so it might take you a little bit longer, and it's a good idea to budget more time than that. If you are a very fast reader, it might actually take you a little bit less time than that. So just considering your own personal speed is a really great way to think about what type of time you need to budget. So 17 hours, a little under 17 hours a week, is that 1,000 minutes per week. And a great idea is to go through, look at your schedule right now, and say, these are the times that I have when I can do that. Not saving it all to the weekend is such a good idea because sometimes it'll take you more, and if you spread out that work, it can actually really help a lot. So do make sure to do that. We're going to get started with the introduction blog. I'm actually just going to click over to our introduction blog here to show you what that looks like. This is a great way for us to get to know each other. It means that I get to see you, a little bit of who you are, you get to see me and your classmates, and we're going to have a lot of discussion throughout our session, and that's going to really allow us some of that connection that sometimes we lose when we're in an online class that's fully online. So you can see I've posted my hello and welcome. You've got, I've given you a link here to one of my favorite 19th century books that we're not going to get a chance to read. I've also got a brief video introduction as well. To see everyone else's, just go to where you find your name, which is right here. Click on that, and it's going to show you everyone else's, and you can click on those, and that's how you'll be able to comment on your classmates' posts and blogs. In Week 1, we have a couple of readings, so we're going to be reading Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. And this is one where I've actually put it on the syllabus. If you want to get a paper copy, I've recommended one that is a good copy. It's also inexpensive. It's a slight, small little volume there. But for some of you, it actually might be easier to read online, to read on an e-reader like a Kindle, something like that, maybe your Nook. And if you want to do that, that's fantastic. You also have the option, and I've given you a link right here, and that's going to be one where you can just click there if you want to print it out, if you want to read it. That is another option for you, which is just wonderful. I love it when they have the full text online for free like that. We also have that for Poe, and that's The Murders in the Rue Morgue, and those are available to you right here, and there's a link to that at poestories.com. So if you want to read The Purloined Letter, this is another of his that's a detective fiction story. It's not a required reading, it's an optional one, but that's if you want more, there's plenty more. I've also included an optional reading, and this is going to be important if you decide to work on Poe when we come to our second essay. Our second essay is a research-based essay, which means you're going to be really diving into what the critics are saying and how they're interpreting the story. And if you'd like to work on Poe, this is Irwin's piece on detective fiction as high art. He introduces a number of really interesting ideas, but it is also a very difficult and technical piece. So that's there as a resource for you, which you might want to use later on. We're also going to be getting into film a little bit. One of the things that is so popular right now is to put detective fiction on film. To put it in film, to put it on television. We see this all the time. So we're going to be studying that some. And our first taste actually comes through this playing of Shakespeare's Hamlet. We're going back in time, just like with Oedipus Rex. Both of these are what we talk about and we can call antecedents of detective fiction. They're not detective fiction proper, but they're classic works of literature that also have elements that anticipate detective fiction. So this is a version that's starring David Tennant and Patrick Stewart. It's from 2009, the Royal Shakespeare Company. And we're not going to be watching the whole thing, but I have actually down here given you a link to the whole thing if you are interested, and a link to the whole text of the play. What we're going to be looking at is really just the portion that is tied to the plot line where Hamlet becomes a detective. The story goes that the ghost of his dead father shows up and says, "Hey, I was murdered." Hamlet then has to figure out whether the ghost is telling the truth and what he's going to do about it. The ghost tells him that it is Hamlet's uncle, the brother of his dad, who killed him, and that he needs to take revenge. Now, Hamlet is not quite so sure about this revenge plotline, so instead he decides to turn detective to figure out if these claims are true. Is the ghost telling the truth? So we're going to be watching those scenes, and there's a description of them here for you. After you do the reading, after you get a sense of the viewing and do that as well, there is a reading quiz. So this is going to have a number of, some of them will be multiple choice, sometimes you'll see short answers showing up on the reading quizzes, but these are open so you don't have to do them all at once. You can do them little bit by little bit throughout the week by using the save function. You do need to finish it by the end of the week. To do that, you'll hit submit. You can save as often as you want, but you can only submit once, so do make sure that you're conscious of which one you are doing. We also have our lectures. So these are through VoiceThread, which is a really fantastic system that we'll be using because it allows you to comment as well. This week, it's not required that you comment. If you'd like to, you are welcome to, and I'll show you how to in just a second. But this is where we're going to have our lectures on Oedipus Rex. We have one on Hamlet, and we also have a lecture on The Murders in the Rue Morgue by Edgar Allan Poe. So you'll see that I'm always going to include both the link to the actually direct site on VoiceThread. So if you have any trouble with the embedded version, sometimes Blackboard is a little weird. If you have trouble, let me know, and I will help you, or if that doesn't work, I will get you in touch with tech support. But my recommendations for things that could fix it: first of all, check and see if you are using Firefox. Firefox works more frequently with Blackboard, so it's a really great idea. And then also with this type of a thing, if it's not working embedded, just click over to the actual site. So this is the button that you'll click to make it full screen, so you have a larger view of it. And then you'll just push play to get started, and you can advance to the different slides. If you want to comment on any of the slides, you'll click that button right there in the middle. You can type, and you can call using your phone. You can record using a microphone that's built in, or a built-in webcam, or you can upload something. So those are the many options you have for that. There's also a lecture on Hamlet that's up as well, so you'll be watching this. The interaction is again available, but not required on either of these lectures. And our final lecture is an audio one. These are the podcast format, so it's an MP3. I like to think of these as a kind of grab and go, so you can take it along with you if you're running, if you're in the car. You'll just click on that and download our Edgar Allan Poe and 19th century detective fiction one. With all of that reading and all of that thinking, we're really going to drive into the writing as well this week. And so we're going to start with an informal writing piece, which is a journal. So in journals, you're actually really welcome to use the first person. So you can say, I think this, or in my experience, I found, and then maybe share some experience and how it connects with this idea of truth. That's a really great space for that, where that doesn't work as well for formal essays. That doesn't mean that it's so informal that you don't have to edit your writing. Editing still matters, so do make sure that you get a bit of a review if you need that, and you can click right here and that'll take you to some resources that will help you with that. So this is going to be a 1 to 2 page reflective essay on truth. So you're going to think about, well, how do the protagonists search for truth in Oedipus Rex and Hamlet? How is Oedipus or how is Hamlet looking for truth? What do they use to try to find that? How does our society determine what is truth? What is a biblical view of truth? How do you personally determine truth? These are some of the questions that you'll be dealing with in your journal. Finally, I wanted to talk about and just really highlight the idea of avoiding plagiarism. And you can scroll around. This is actually on my website as well, so if you want the link up in the last item, we do have the link to that. Avoiding plagiarism is absolutely key. If you want to do research and incorporate research, that's fantastic. Sometimes I'll actually require research. Other times, it's something that's optional. So for the journal, I'm not expecting research, but if you'd like to bring some in, that's perfectly fine. What you do need to make sure to do, though, is you need to make sure that you're citing all of that properly. So you can use APA format or MLA. MLA is preferred in English, but I also accept APA. And what you need to do is make sure that you're giving proper attribution. If it's a direct quote, you're taking someone's words exactly, put quotation marks around that, and let us know where it's come from. If it's a paraphrase, you're taking maybe some of their sentence structure and their ideas and really like what they've said in a sentence or two, and you're putting it in your own words. That's a paraphrase. It still needs to be cited because the ideas are coming from this other source. With the summary, you're also going to just let us know and attribute where are you getting this from. So make sure that you are doing that, and that's going to help you avoid plagiarism. The other plagiarism issue to really be thinking about is what we call self-plagiarism. And what that is really the recycling of work that you've already done in other classes for the class you're currently in. That's something that CBU does not allow unless it's a specific circumstance where you've worked it out with the instructor. Perhaps there are 2 classes that are connected where you're working on the same project. That's going to be different. So if you do have any questions about that, if you are approaching a topic you've dealt with before, make sure to talk to me about that so that we can walk through and really work with that citation and make sure that you're in line with university policy as well. That is our big introduction to week 1. Most of our weeks won't be quite that long, but we had a lot of starting up elements. So I'm so excited to be working with you, and I hope that you all have a fantastic week 1.